Hello, Tiffany here with Cards Crafty Creations. So today I have another video for you where I'm going to be using my glass pen and the India ink set that I purchased not long ago. I do have two other videos in which I have tested the inks. And so today's video I'm actually going to do another testing. The last videos I was using Bristol smooth cardstock, and today I'm actually going to try coloring on watercolor cardstock. And I don't know the stamps that I used for this, so I can't tell you what it is, but it's just a flower set. And I'm going to see how the ink holds up to watercolor paper. Is it going to bleed more? Can I bleed the colors into each other to get a better gradient on this versus the Bristol Smooth? I did also test it on Nina cardstock, but it bled. It like bloomed out, so I didn't find that this ink worked well on that cardstock. It works best on the Bristol Smooth cardstock, and it does work on watercolor. It's just the colors are more saturated into this cardstock. So the colors aren't as crisp as they were on my last videos. So I'm going ahead and go do that. And so stick around and we will get started. Okay, so here we are. We're going to color this stamped image in. This is actually just Canson's watercolor paper. And then this is the ink set, the India ink set that I have been playing with and experimenting on what it's capable of. And then here is my glass dip pen that I will be using to color the image. I'm actually going to do the flowers yellow, and what I'm going to try and do is see if I can get a shadow gradient on here. So I'm actually going to use yellow and orange as my shadow color. And remember, these are metallic, so you have to shake them up when you use them to get the metallic shimmer mixed back in. So I'm going to use the yellow and the orange. And then for the leaves, I'm actually going to use the green for part of the leaves, and then I'm going to actually use yellow on the tips of the leaves. Okay, so let's bring our colors in. And as I said, I don't have one of the things to hold my pen, so I just leave this here. So between colors are changing, I can just set it here. It won't roll all over. You're going to need some water to clean the color off between switching colors, and I just keep a little cloth to dry it as well. So okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the yellow. No, I'm going to start with the orange instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do the orange. You can see how full, let's see how far we can take this amount of ink. But I'm just going to do the orange where the shadows would be. And that's mostly going to be pretty much, we're lucky here because the stamp already kind of showed us where it wants the shadows to be. So we're just going to put this orange down in those areas, and I'm going to go back and forth across. That way this ink can dry a little bit before I hit the next spot. Like I said, I used the Lawn Fawn licorice, black licorice, whichever way you say it, but I used that ink, and I stamped this actually a couple weekends ago, so it may reactivate the ink. It may not, so we'll just see how it goes. So I'm going to finish putting in. I almost need to dip the pen again, but I might be able to make it to the end. I can actually pick up some of the ink from the other petals. I figured that out a while ago, that if it's just sitting on the surface of the paper, you can still pick it up. I can also just pick up a little bit off of the rim of the ink jar here, and that'll probably give me enough just to get this color set back down. Okay, so I think that's probably pretty good for getting my shadow color in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and finish coloring all of the shadow colors in, and then I'll put some music on, and we'll come back after I finish with this orange, and we'll start working on the yellow. Okay, I think that just about finishes up our putting down our shadow color. I'm going to clean my pen off and close that up and switch over to the yellow. So let's see, when I add the yellow, what will that do? What kind of blending can we get to happen with this yellow and the orange together? So let's dip the pen. Let's start coloring in this. So it does look like it's reactivating the orange a little bit, kind of making it a little bit of a blurry look, but I can't say that I'm disappointed with that. I think that has a good effect to creating a shadow and a highlight. It's a little dark when it reactivated, and this is watercolor ink or paper, so it shouldn't really deteriorate too much. Maybe I have a little bit too much ink on there, and it is breaking down the paper just a little bit, so I just need to get less ink on my nib. Since it's probably saturated already from the orange, I just need to have less ink and probably dip a few more times instead. That way I don't start breaking the paper down and it peeling up. So, but so far I'm pretty impressed with the kind of shadowing look it gives it. It also reminds me of those yellow and red roses that where like the tips of the yellow rose are a reddish color. It's kind of what it's reminding me of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go finish coloring in the yellow parts of the flowers, and then when I'm done with that, I'll come back and we will start working on the leaves. think that's about good with the yellow. This one's probably the worst of the flowers, only because it was so saturated. It really got blurry. So I used a little less ink. I kind of did the technique that I used on the leaf card, in that I didn't cover every area. I did leave some white spaces in there. But overall, I think these are better. I kind of kept the yellow just within the blank space. When I did touch the orange, it did bleed out, which is good. I mean, it still does what I would hope it would do, would activate the ink and then create a shadow effect by doing that. But all in all, I think that's pretty good, with the exception of this one. I'm not really that pleased with the way that came out. It's not bad though. It just kind of blurred up more of the lines. Doesn't give it such a sketchy look like the rest of them. I could probably go put more ink on the rest and get them to bleed in a little bit more too. But for now, I'm good with it this way. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch to the green, and I'm going to work on the leaves. And what I'm going to do with those is I'm just going, because I want to give it like a two-tone look. So I'm actually just going to take the green and put it at the very base of the leaf. I want to do kind of like I did on the leaf card, where the tip of the leaf is a different color. I think kind of by doing that kind of sticks with this kind of reminds me of an actual like vintage card. It's probably just because of the style of the leaves and the style of the actual stamp, and the colors that I used seem very, very old, vintage like. So I'm going to put this at the base mostly. If it's here, that means there's a shadow because the flower is overlaying onto it. I'm going to do the stem. There's going to be an overlay there, so I'm going to put some at the top and bottom. These actually have some leaves on the underside. It's the underside of the flower. You know, some flowers on where the stem meets the flower is a greenish color. So I'll put some there. And I'll just finish coloring up these leaves real quick. Doesn't take a lot. And I kind of like the idea of this, taking a regular stamp set and not just filling in every last bit of the actual stamp, but leaving some open white spaces. Just gives it some more character. So I think, let me go in and get a couple of these stems. I might have to get the black out and connect some of these stems. They look like, because it's one stamp set that I just did multiple stampings of, not all the stems matched up. Alright, so now I'm going to bring the yellow back in, and I'm just going to get the tips of these leaves. Most of those. Okay, and I'm actually going to bring brown into the card. I see there's a lot of the insides of this one, which I feel like would have like a brown pollen color. It's probably a yellow color, but I'm going to do brown. And I'm just going to tap in some color. I'm not going to color it in all the way. I'm just going to tap it in so that it at least looks like there's some color in there, not just the black stamp. reactivate that black ink by us doing this, so it'll kind of, it'll blend in because it's activating the black ink, which is going to make it a darker green shade to match the rest. So looks like I got a little bit of ink on there. I must have swiped it with my hand. I'll clean that off, but so far I was pretty impressed with the way the coloring came out. This one's not bad, but it's obviously different than the rest of them. It did reactivate, and I was actually a little disappointed that it actually broke the paper down a little bit too, because I would not expect that with watercolor paper. But we are using a sharp nib, so I guess that makes sense, versus a paintbrush isn't going to break it down. But put water on there and you scrape it enough, it will break any paper down, I'm sure. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm just gonna mount this to a mat and make a card out of it. Hope to see you back again. I do have some other videos coming up where I will be using white ink and a dip pen to create a card using a stamp set. Alright, thanks so much.